Oh, that's it. Now you have to
Watch the
count
red
to
light.
15.
Well, okay, we have no red light. No, she knows. Maybe. We'll give her a thumbs up again. There you go.
All right, we're set.
Let's call this meeting to order of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Planning and Building Committee. Today is Tuesday, April 24th. Could we have a roll call, please?
Crawford.
Here.
McGilvray.
Here.
Dwyer.
Here.
Teets is absent with notice. Jackson. Here. Wypert.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Could we please join in the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Can we have approval of the previous minutes of April 10th? Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed. Can we have approval of today's agenda? We have a amended agenda in front of us. Moved by Commissioner McGilvray, supported by Commissioner Crawford. We're using the agenda not on the website, but today's agenda that's presented for us has an extra item. Facilities management will be number 3. So, with that, any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to today's regular agenda. And the first item is Central Services Department, Aviation and Transportation Division, position deletion and position creation. I need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner McGilvray. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Bush from the airport manager, and we are requesting today your concurrence of a deletion of the seasonal laborer's position, converting that position to a full-time maintenance labor position. This is required laborer services year-round. It will enable us to have some retention of a seasonal individual that will be available to us now year-round for winter operations, and it's been very difficult to replace some of the seasonal staff and getting them trained. This will allow us to keep a trained individual year-round and take some of the pressure off of some of the more skilled full-time laborers.
Any questions? You see this as a trend. We've seen this in some other departments where they're hard to get the seasonal and hard to keep people. And
Very hard.
Yes. Is that what's happening?
Yes. We would hold 6 to 7 positions open for seasonal laborers and only maybe be able to fill 4 positions. So this will allow us to keep someone that I think will stay with us for a long time.
Commissioner Dwyer.
Morning.
Good morning.
Are you just going to reduce the overtime account to cover the expense of the full-timer?
Yes.
Just a transfer?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Let's call the roll, please.
Crawford.
Yes.
McGilvray.
Yes.
Dwyer.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Wypert.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item is Water Resources Commissioner, the 2017 annual report by the Commissioner Jim Nash. Got a motion? Motion by Commissioner McGilvray, supported by Commissioner Jackson.
Hi, folks.
Morning.
This has been before P&B. We're here to do our annual presentation of our annual report. We gave it to you guys a little while ago. Really, basically, this is it's a compilation of all our financial issues. We have listed our drain, water projects, our under construction development, all that's going on with that. Our construction funds, our maintenance funds, our debt service funds. It includes statements for all our Chapter 20 and 4 and 21 drains. The 20 drains are the ones that are organized through the communities. They come to us and it's usually paid through the community. Chapter 4s are paid through by people who give flow to the drain, and our Chapter 21s we're quite active with are the ones between counties, the biggest one being OMID. We also have 2 major projects we're working on right now. The Pontiac Wastewater Treatment Plant, we're doing a $32 million improvement on that plant. It's the 3rd in the country, 1st in Michigan. It's going to make this really a leading edge plant in terms of how we deal with solids, sewage solids. We're going to be able to produce a bunch of methane that we can potentially sell in the market. We can produce usable fertilizer by people for their gardens. We can sell it or we can give it away. We're also working on a major project with the Oakland-Macomb Interceptor. This is the one with Macomb County. It serves 800,000 Oakland County citizens. And this is a project that we've been running since 2004. There was a collapse. 2009, we started the project replacing a huge part of it. During that, we discovered in the pump station, the Northeast Pump Station, there were a ton of problems. We spent $1 million on 100 yards of work because it was on the verge of collapse. In doing that, we've been working with GLEAT, Great Lakes Water Authority. This is owned by them, but it only services the OMID, so we are going to be taking it over. This will allow us to borrow money cheaper and, frankly, run it better. We're looking to do that this year. We're working with Great Lakes Water Authority to negotiate that, and I think we'll be finishing that up not too long.
Hopefully in a few months.
Right, so it won't be too long till that's done, and we'll be starting to work that. That's it's about a $70 million project, which is divided almost half and half, so it's about $35 million for both counties. This is something that, if we don't do it, we're going to have serious trouble down the road, because this is something that, the reason we had the initial break in 2004 is it wasn't properly maintained for a long time, and since we've taken it over, we've done it way better. So one thing, just by lining these pipes that we did in this project, we've taken it from about $7 million a year. We've taken off the bill of treating the water coming from that system by $7 million a year just by lining that tunnel. So these are the kind of things that we can do. It's going to save a lot of money for many, many years to come. Any questions?
Good. Commissioner Jackson?
Thank you. I'm going to digress to like the Southfield Interceptor project that was going on along Telegraph Road and Franklin for a
Right.
awfully long time. I think the public kind of like also called that a sinkhole problem. How does this differ from just what you mentioned about the interceptor with Macomb County, this project? Because I know the city of Southfield and the WRC both incurred costs with that project, and it was a very long project in Southfield. Could you just give us a brief wrap up on that, just for our
Sure.
audience?
Sure. It's very similar, except that the scale of the Macomb County sinkhole was, tens of millions of dollars. This was a multi-million-dollar repair on this sinkhole here at Franklin Road and Telegraph Road, and we actually used some very innovative directional drilling to replace the line under Telegraph Road, so we wouldn't have to open cut and close the road. So that project just wrapping up. The sewer's complete. I think we have some additional restoration now that spring is finally here. A little bit of road work, maybe some cleanup that's still left to go. But we entered into a contract with Southfield because their sewer line tapped into the county's interceptor line, so we are sharing costs for that repair. So we've finally completed that repair.
Okay, and then one other thing about it, I was told that during that project, it was discovered or revealed that the way people flush, what people flush down their sewer system kind of exacerbated the repair. Is there any type of plan or program where we could kind of get that information out to our general public and maybe kind of focus on that a little bit more?
Absolutely. We've been working on that. We did a video that you guys saw a few years ago, kind of a funny video talking about it. We're doing education. I speak to groups all over the county a lot. There's really two things. Fats, oils, and grease are things with anything you're pouring down your drain. Fats, oils, and grease are a major source of sewer backups because they line that sewer. It can be amazing. And around restaurants, that's why we have cross connections that we make sure that they're not dumping grease into the lines. And the other one is ragging. I think that's what you're talking about more, is ragging. Because on a bigger thing, the grease is more on smaller pipes. The ragging is a huge issue, and I've done talks around it. I have some things on my website about it. I talk about it whenever I talk to groups. Don't ever flush. The only thing that should go out is what comes out of you and paper and toilet paper. Even something as simple as tissue isn't made to break down the way toilet paper is. So when you had there was some things in that Macomb County sinkhole, she had some pictures of her standing next to these pumps. Whenever you're doing pumping, ragging gets stuck in those things so fast, it's just staggering. I think she said she was replacing them every 2 hours. She was cycling through every 2 hours through clean filters to get these things out. People have to recognize that anything you're flushing down that toilet can get caught. They can attach to the grease. Even one of my folks told me that, what do you call it, floss, dental floss. It acts like rope and it holds it together, and it's almost impossible to break through that stuff. We do as much education around as we can. Sometimes we even put things in our bills talking about issues like this that's just say, don't forget, don't flush these things down. So as much as we can, we get out there and do it. If you find anybody interested to speak, I'd love to come talk to them about it.
I think it'd probably be good for you with the end of that long project, maybe to come up to our city council and address them about the project and also
Sure.
remind them about what not to push.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, we'll arrange that.
Commissioner Dwyer, a question.
Morning, Jim.
Hey.
Just unrelated to the report, just kind of give us an update as far as the Farmington Hills Middle Belt project. Are all the issues resolved now on that project?
Yeah, we've done the last, we did 4 rounds of testing over a year and a half. I think we finished the last one, right?
There's still one more to go this fall.
Oh, there's
One
one
more
more.
round of testing, but right now the water main installation, I think, is underway or will be underway shortly. So that'll allow the water main to be installed in that neighborhood.
In the
Folks-
subdivision
In the
itself,
subdivision,
okay.
the folks can then connect. And anybody who doesn't connect, I think we're still going to do one more round of testing for the wells, for those still on wells in that area, and just to hopefully confirm all the results, the successful passing results we've had before. But we coordinate with the health department on everything, and everything is looking good.
Appreciate that.
I think we're all done with the replanting, and everything's good now, and we're all back to operating.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
What's, as far as your report and going in the future, what's some of the new technology? I see this new plan is the third one.
Our biggest push these days is green infrastructure is not doing the big giant projects, and instead, the more we can, green infrastructure basically what it does is it tries to imitate natural absorption of rainwater. So if we can put green infrastructure around the entrance into the system of stormwater, that if we can get that first inch absorbed before it reaches the stormwater drains, you're gonna cut way back on the number of releases, the amount of treated water and that kind of thing. So it's got a really good payback. It's much cheaper than buying the big giant infrastructures and the pumps and the tanks and all those things. So we're looking to make sure that the communities are working in that direction. Matter of fact, we're looking for a grant from SEMCOG to go to the communities of the George W. Kuhn. There's 14 communities, all are part of, and we're gonna help them look at their ordinances to help align their ordinances with green infrastructure to make it easier for them to develop that way. And they're very interested in doing it, and they all want to do it. They want to do it the most efficient way possible, and we're trying to help guide that.
And what about the pipelining? What, that extends the life, is that?
Sure, when we go in and inspect our infrastructure, if we determine that, we have a crumbling pipe, they have all sorts of different types of pipeliners, these plastic type pipes that we can insert in the pipe, and it basically, for example, on the Oakland Macomb system, we put in a pipeliner that added 70 to 100 years of life to a pipe that was 50 years old. So that type of technology with these new polymers and so forth, and new methodologies to line pipes, are making an impact to address this aging infrastructure that we're seeing here.
I mean, it saves digging through a road and replace the whole thing.
Correct. We don't have to dig up the road. Everything is worked from manhole to manhole, and so that saves costs as well for replacing the road. Or if we have to, we can coordinate with the road commission on road building projects and get in there and do what we have to do with our sewer and storm drain, and let them coordinate with them so we don't have to go cut up a road for a problem after they recently repaved it.
And this Pontiac plant, that, when you talk about the fertilizer, I mean, I don't think people realize when they go buy the fertilizer at the hardware store, it's from these plants. I mean, I think there's a big one in Wisconsin that supplies fertilizer all over the country, but
There's
that.
one in Washington D.C. They did a project. They were the first in the country to do a project like we're doing now. It's a much larger scale. They did the same thing. And they're doing that exact thing. They bag it and they sell it on the market. And You know, as of now, we spend a lot of money, the older facilities, like the Pontiac facility, spreading solids on fields, and they cost money, or we put it in landfills, which costs way more money. So we're gonna save over $500,000 a year just in cost of getting rid of this stuff. Plus, we'll be able to produce a bunch of more methane that we can then sell. So we have potential for cutting the costs that incur to get your water and sewer bills in Pontiac, while at the same time, we're some years into a 20-year plan to replace the infrastructure in Pontiac, because well over 3/4 of it is past its life expectancy. And if you're not repairing this stuff, you're going to be repairing in emergencies. Like people have said, that it's way more expensive to repair an emergency than it is to do it in a planned way. So that's how we're doing it in Pontiac. And the older communities are the ones that have the least, often have the least ability to pay, but the most need. So we're working in a way that's going to balance the impact on the bill with what we have to do to make sure the system works.
One other thing that's worth mentioning about the Pontiac project, the original Pontiac wastewater treatment plant was designed only to serve the city of Pontiac. Through the commissioner and efforts with the city and local communities, we've expanded that plant with these improvements to be a regional facility. So there's also 12 other communities that are diverting flow to Pontiac, and those 12 other communities are working with the city of Pontiac, basically splitting the cost 50-50 for this $32 million project for this major upgrade. So we've created this regional facility that in the long run saves costs because we don't have to send the sewage down to the city of Detroit for treatment, and we have total control of the operation here with our partner communities.
Great. Any other questions? This is just a report, so we just call a roll, or so let's have a roll call.
McGilvray?
Yes.
Dwyer?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Whitebird?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, folks.
Keep
You
up
know how to
the-
get hold of me. Anybody
Yes.
ever have a question? Thanks.
Ready for item 3?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Item 3 is facilities management, facilities maintenance and operation, information technology elevator repair project. I need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner McGilvray. You have in front of you a resolution that just came in. We just added this item today. Art, can you tell us what's going on?
Sure thing. Yesterday at the Information Technology Building, we conducted a 3-year full load, 2,500-pound, 4-hour safety test, which is again, it's a periodic test that has to be done. The elevator failed. I'll let Joe explain what happened. Again, this was during the day yesterday. Since there is a PMB meeting today, and it's obviously critical that any elevator be repaired as quickly as possible, and we had money already in the CIP to do this, we asked for, well, I guess I didn't ask you, Commissioner, for permission, but I did notify Chris that we were doing this, to allocate the monies from the CIP for this repair. And I'll let Joe explain what actually happened.
Okay, thank you.
So the county is very good on being proactive in maintaining our elevators. I just want to state that the safety of our employees and our visitors to our locations is paramount. So long story short, we had an elevator that we were doing our 3-year required test, and it failed. The hydraulic cylinder, when it was under pressure, the 4-hour pressure test, the cylinder blew. So that is going to be a timely repair that we need to get moving on right away. We do have an annual contractor that the state requires us to inspect those elevators quarterly. The county does them every month, once or twice a month, to make sure there was no indications that the elevator had any issues. It was within, it's 27 years old, life expectancy is 30 to 35. Depending on the soil conditions and use. So we had planned this ahead of time, sort of, but then it didn't make the test. So that's why we're moving forward really quick on this project to get them back up and running. There is 2 elevators at that location, so it's not like we're leaving them too bad of a situation, but we want to get moving.
The other one's a freight elevator, and it's not generally accessible by the public. That's the downside, but yes, luckily there is a second elevator, so if there was a handicapped individual, they could be escorted to the freight elevator to be brought up to the second floor.
Commissioner Dwyer, then Commissioner McGovern.
Morning. So how many floors in that building? I'm not familiar with it really.
It's a 3-stop elevator.
3-stop?
Yep.
So you just got the freight elevator, then you got this elevator.
Yep, the
that's it.
passenger, yep.
So what do you think time-wise? Obviously, I'm gonna support it anyways.
We have an emergency,
Any-
I guess you could say an emergency conference call right after this meeting with the contractor to discuss and our elevator consultant to discuss the timing.
Can you project anything?
We're typically, with market conditions, 2 to 3 weeks, but everybody's really, really busy right now. So we'll hopefully firm that up, but I would say it's gonna be a good, 4 to 5, worst case.
Got a lot of traffic in that building?
Yes, there is, yep.
Because that freight elevator's gonna have to work for a while. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McGovern?
That answered my question, I'm all set.
And there's, anybody else? So there's different, in buildings with fewer floors, there's couple of kinds of different elevators, aren't there? There's the hydraulic ones and cable
And a
ones.
cable is a traction elevator, correct.
So usually when the buildings have 1 or 2 or 3 stories, it's a,
Traction elevator,
okay.
cable,
If it's higher than the 1 or 2 floors.
Right.
correct, yep.
So this one's hydraulic and the hydraulics just failed and,
That's correct. And we also have, our elevator consultant does come in every 3 years and does a performance audit on that equipment, and the last one was less than 2 years ago, and it didn't indicate any issues either. The oil was holding at its levels, so it's just when you put it at that max weight, it's why we do the test.
Yeah.
So, and it failed.
what's the age of it?
27 years old. 1991, I believe, when the building was built.
Do we have ones with similar age, similar styles?
We've been very proactive. I think you've seen us at the board for the last 3 years. I think we probably replaced about 80% of the equipment, the older equipment we got out there. So we're pretty comfortable that this is, one of those things that just happened, that we just didn't get to it quick enough. And that when you're looking at 30, 35 years, and we had a 27-year window there. I mean, we can't predict it. You just don't go in there and tear things out at, 20 years to be safe, because it could last, another 20 years.
Is the freight elevator the same make and model, or?
It's similar. It was in there at the same time it was built, 91.
It's a much larger unit, larger cab, but it would be
I believe, Steve, they did the test on that unit as well that weekend, and that unit passed.
Unfortunately, the current year in the CIP had the 200,000 in there for elevator maintenance and remodeling, so that's why we wanted to come here as quickly as possible, is to simply claim some of that money for this project.
Commissioner Dwyer?
Is that a notice? Elevator?
I believe it is not. It is it's got a Schindler block valve.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think it's a Schindler. I know it's not Otis, but it's a Schindler, it looks like. All the operating equipment is Schindler equipment.
Okay, thank you.
And we anticipate that Schindler will actually be doing the repairs.
Commissioner Jackson?
So we recently completed a large workplace enhancement redo of that IT area, didn't we? I know that it was brought to us.
The building safety
Going to.
enhancements?
Yeah, just that whole IT area to make it up to date with that type of workplace. Didn't we update that building?
Well, okay, so Joe pointed out a second project. So there are two major projects that I don't want to say that I'm aware of, but there have been numerous little projects, but the two major ones that I'm aware of that you might be referring to would be the remodel of the second floor, where we basically gutted it and redid it so that it was more state-of-the-art,
Yes.
more, as Joe refers to it as Google-like,
Right.
to help attract high-powered computer-type professionals. The other being The other major project was the building security enhancements, which were primarily outside around the building, putting in crash-rated gates and fencing.
Well, I was speaking about the interior plan update, so now the elevator will be updated as well.
Correct.
Service those areas.
We also did a major upgrade to the auditorium there as well. We took out all the seating and benching and replaced those with brand new equipment. Changed the layout so it was a little easier to get around. And I think we also created the AV system in that too.
Thank you. So the elevator will match the inside.
That's the Clemens building, right? Clemens?
Clemens is in that building.
Any other questions?
Now, the dispatch center is across the parking lot. of course.
Right.
No other questions? Let's call the roll.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
McGilvray.
Yes.
Swiper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for staying on
I
it.
appreciate
You're welcome.
the Short notice, you're handling the short notice here for us.
You are welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it too.
Communications, we have communication from the airport committee and the building authority minutes. We need a motion to receive and file. Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner McGilvery. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passed. Any other business? Seeing no other business, we will be